Dude, I'm snagged.
You know what I mean? Let's be real with them.
Let's do it. All right, welcome back to the Snagged podcast. This week is episode 2, and we're going to be talking about bank fishing for bass. I am one of your hosts, Dean Marandino. Here with me is...
Josh Honeycutt.
How's it going, Josh?
Good dude.
How's your week been? Have you gotten any fishing in?
I did. I went out a couple times and have had hardly any luck.
Okay.
I actually went out yesterday, dude, and was trying to see if I could get any more fish on the board for this online tournament. And it didn't go as well as I planned on it to go, but cold weather conditions. But I did get pulled over by the game warden.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you are continuing this downward spiral of not catching fish.
I am continuing a downward spiral of not catching fish, and I'm getting in trouble with the law. So, I mean, I think, fishing's supposed to be a positive thing, and I'm turning it into a negative thing. Maybe I should.
Thank goodness for the game wardens and the states for employing
You're
those
right.
guys, because I mean
They're keeping
they
us safe out there, man.
they keep us safe. They keep the waterways, somewhat free of debris, and
Right.
keep people who shouldn't be out on the water, taking too many fish, etc. So I would have to say, it's a positive and a negative. It sucks when you have to stop.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't even a bad thing. Like I said, I got them called on me for being too close to the dam. I wasn't that close, I would say, but uh, I just feel bad for the guy having to chase me 400 yards down the bank and talk to me. But we handled everything, and I wasn't doing anything wrong. All my records are straight, and he just informed me that I was a little too close to the dam. And that's you got to get up. I'm trying to fish deep. You know what I mean?
And I mean, so how long, just so the listeners know, how long have you been fishing in Oklahoma?
I've been fishing in Oklahoma for a little less than a year now.
And you have not had a single thing said to you about having a permit for your kayak, correct?
Permit for the kayak or fishing that close to the dam.
I mean, what's crazy is you and I went fishing about 2 months ago, back in December, I believe, and we had a game warden who was sitting right next to us, saw us put your kayak back into the bed of your truck, and he didn't say a single word to
Not
you.
a word, dude.
So I find that really kind of crazy, and again, nothing against the game wardens, but that's just kind of a silly whole scenario. So you came out unscathed, no tickets, right?
No tickets. He let me fish. He let me finish the day out fishing, and
How many fish did you catch?
I caught a total of none.
Okay, all right.
But I did get a bite, dude, on the good old drop shot in about 12 feet of water on a random rock edge, and it was so random. I think it could have been anything, man. I mean, I don't know, but no, I went out today and I took care of all that stuff. I got the registration now. I got the city permit renewed like I needed to do, and I still have my license. So that was good. My license, I would never go out there without a license. It's just a whole different level of administrative work compared to Texas that I didn't know I had to do. But we're squared away now, and now I'm legal.
So, word to the wise, make sure that you're fishing with a license. Make sure that you are out there, abiding by the laws, because you do not want to get caught up in any of that craziness and getting tickets and whatever other fines that come along with getting out on the water, or, fishing even from the bank illegally,
Dig into regulations.
Yep, absolutely.
Look into the regulations before you do anything. And like we said, they're there to keep us safe, and they're there to protect our waterways and conservation. So
I've been swamped with work. I haven't had a single chance to go out fishing in the last week and a half. but I've been relying on you heavily to give me some feedback on the
Yeah,
water.
living
So,
living vicariously through me, and you're skunking,
yep.
so you're probably just as bad as I am right now. Then,
I, I cannot defend myself to that because I mean, at least you've been out there attempting. I've just been
dude, just
stuck behind a computer desk
and then I
for,
also got stuck in that snow front that we got.
yep,
I think I told you about that.
last week, right?
Where I was out there for about 35 minutes. The snow blew in and hands went numb. That was one thing I could handle that, right? But it was when my reel started freezing and the line started freezing to the rod, and my line was freezing to the line inside my reel, and I could not cast it anymore. So that stopped me too.
Gotta love the Oklahoma winter. I mean, it is like a bad girlfriend. One second it's hot, one second it's cold, and next thing you know, you just got dumped.
Yeah.
So,
So,
but so we've kind of given a little recap of our week. What is on the docket for this week's
so
episode?
today, well, this week we will be covering bank fishing for bass and everything that goes into it, from uh, planning your trip and preparation, all the way to some of the baits that I personally like to use when I'm bank fishing, different approaches I take to bank fishing. Bank fishing is pretty much where we all begin our fishing journey.
Yeah,
We start from the bank. We don't all have a boat going on out into when we start fishing. So I figured this would be a good topic to cover, man, and kind of get the ball rolling. It kind of helps some people skip some of the hardships that they'll encounter when it comes to learning how to bass fish on any body of water and bass fishing from the bank, because you can learn a lot from just fishing on the bank. A lot
yeah,
of things that will help you later on when you do get a vessel. So,
yeah. And I mean, you can zero in on the baits that are doing well from the
yep,
bank, and a lot of the times the techniques you're going to use are going to be the opposite of what you would be fishing from the bank. So typically from the bank you're going to be casting out and drawing your line back in,
right,
right? Well, the other half of that would be when you're out in a boat or a kayak, you're fishing from, the water towards the bank.
usually, yeah,
But you're able to use a lot of the same techniques,
right.
and a lot of the same baits and changing up the techniques. So I think you're absolutely right. This is a awesome way to kind of break the ice for episode 2 and get people, you know, get people immersed in how to start out without anything other than a rod, reel, and a
Point them,
couple of techniques.
point them in the right direction.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely.
So we'll go ahead and just jump right into it. The first thing we're going to cover is uh, access points and using maps to be able to find out where you can start and where you can go on these on any banks, lakes, ponds, rivers, whatever it may be. Um, we'll cover the access points first. You do not. We've all done it. Trespassing, right? There are
Yeah,
certain areas where we just cannot help ourselves. If you're a fisher, if you're an angler of any sort, you're going to see a spot and you just want to get out there and you want to hammer that spot and you want to go see if there's fish, but there happens to be a fence there. So what do? We jump the fence, right? I'd advise against that. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. I can sit here for days and tell you all these things that could go wrong with that. But let's just advise against that. And that's where, your maps come in, right? There are so many tools and resources out there, and with today's technology, that you can find access points and also find good spots on the body of water that you want to fish from the
yep,
bank.
yep. Just by doing a little bit of recon and using, Google Earth or,
And yep.
even just the maps on your phone.
So,
Absolutely.
so that's a big thing. Like the maps on your phone, it's already at your fingertips. If
Hmm.
anyone has a phone, they have GPS and they probably have some sort of map app on your phone. I like Google Maps. Sometimes I'll use Apple just to get a different look at what I'm going to be fishing at. Because sometimes the dates on these satellite images they change and
Yep.
they're different from each other. So one image can give you uh, a time when the lake was down, while the other image can give you time when the lake was up. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
So, and just real quick, so that the listeners kind of understand what you mean when you're saying the lake is up, is just the level of the water
Right,
will be higher.
the water levels being higher or
Okay.
lower, and you can
Okay.
tell that based off just looking at Google Maps or Apple Maps or any kind of GPS map on your phone that you can get on the App Store. But there's
Absolutely.
a couple other resources I use too, when it comes to not just bank fishing, but I use it for any kind of fishing I do. And I'm gonna put these, I'm gonna post these in the on the Facebook and Instagram, and put them in the YouTube description. These links to these places. Uh, One of them is Navionics web app.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Navionics web app gives you detailed contours of the lake you're fishing.
Now, why are contours important?
Contours are important because certain seasons and certain times of the years, these fish will be stacked up on ledges, right? So where your contours are close together,
Mm-hmm.
almost like a cliff,
Mm-hmm.
that's what a ledge is. In a cold time, like cold seasons and the really hot seasons, summer, these fish will be deeper. And these contours will give you an idea of where these fish are. It will also give you an idea of where there's structures, such as a hump in the lake, or something of that
Or a
nature,
tree
or a
stump,
tree
or
stump,
railroad
right?
tracks, or cars, etc.
Riverbeds, things like that.
Yep.
And those are all good things to look at, right? And they give you a good detailed image of where you can fish from the bank on those spots. They can tell you how close you are to them kind of spots from the bank.
Yeah, so you can find the most
Right.
advantageous point on the land or from the land to cast towards, and kind of get yourself set up.
And then the other app I use, which is not it's not actually an app. It's on, you have to use it on the computer. It's Google Maps Pro, or Google Earth Pro.
Mm-hmm.
Google Earth Pro is by far my favorite mapping system that I use when I'm doing any kind of fishing.
Yeah, it's a great
The
tool.
best thing about it is you can get on your lake and you can reverse the time
Yep.
on that system, right? And see, I mean, some of these lakes around here, I think Latonka goes back to 1985, and I can look at maps from airplanes from 1985 or old satellites and see different things that you just can't see now on that lake.
Yeah,
And it gives you
absolutely.
an awesome identification of, okay, wow, I didn't know there was an old bridge piling or an old dock piling right here because I can't see it. But I
Yeah,
traced it back to 85, and now I'm like, oh man. I,
and those things are important because the fish that you're targeting, bass, love structure. They love to position themselves where they are up against structure. So it's important to find those, those rock piles or the railroad ties that are, sunk
yep.
in the lakes, any kind of trees. That's why you find those fish near those areas, is because those fish prefer to be up against that kind of structure.
And then they can also, these map systems, these map apps can also give you an idea of where there might be a creek that's covered up by some brush. So that's
Hmm.
an access point for you that someone might not know about on that body of water.
Yep.
And it's still, within public land, so you can get on it. And bass will swim up under that brush and get in those creeks, especially during the spawn and stuff. And they'll be up in there, and most people don't even know about them because they're covered with trees and covered with brush. But you get on that map and you can see those spots on there, and you can find a way to get to them using those maps.
Yeah,
So,
those are all great points. I think the key takeaway would be utilizing the imagery tools from Google or from Apple Maps, and checking out the different settings, the different overlays, so that you can see topography,
yep,
and so that you can see um, the depth changes from
right.
the water over different periods of time, and that allows you to kind of play the more tactical side of fishing and understanding where the fish are going to place themselves based on the type of year and based on the structure that is there or is not there.
Yep. And that's just all part of, going, and that just goes into all the preparation. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
which will lead us to our next part. Our next uh, part on the agenda is packing and what you need to bring out there. Um, I don't. This isn't a major part because it really just depends on where you're going or which you feel like you need to bring. Um, but there are some important things you got to note, right? So bank fishing can be dangerous. There's a lot of wildlife on the bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with wildlife, especially in the springtime, summertime, we got snakes, poisonous
Yes.
snakes, especially
Yep.
up here in Texas. I know pretty much all over the country, you're gonna have poisonous snakes, rattlesnakes, copperheads, water moccasins, right? So boots. Boots are very important when you're fishing on the bank. Unless you're fishing somewhere where it's, parking lots and boat docks and whatnot, then you really don't have to worry about it as much. But if you're fishing on riffraff or you're fishing in some heavily wooded areas or you're even having to get like almost in the water, definitely have some boots, right? Um, Another thing, if you're creek fishing, right? A lot of the times with creek fishing, you're getting in the water and fishing, right? So if you're not comfortable with leeches, if you're not comfortable with snakes, if you're not comfortable with some of these things, right?
Alligators.
Alligators in
Yeah.
Florida, I ain't getting in the water in
Florida,
Florida.
Georgia,
Nope.
Louisiana.
Um,
I mean,
but it's out there,
Texas.
waders, especially for leeches. I can't tell you how many times I've had leeches on me
Yeah.
in Salado Creek, man. But they don't really bother me that much, but they will get on you. Definitely have you some waders. And then your necessities, always have you some sort of first aid kit, right? Some sort of first aid pack going. Make sure you have, water, a way to start fire. You never know what's going to happen, man. So always have some way to start a fire at least. You know what I mean? And then you
Mm-hmm.
can figure it out from there. Your knives, your pliers, tools, right? Um,
Yeah, your
it-
loadout is pretty
right.
important. I mean, I would say at a minimum, you should either have the hook retriever tool,
Yep.
and you can find those at Walmart and really any outdoor store, or you need to have a good set of long nose
Right.
pliers to be able to get the hooks out of the fish.
And they make a ton of multi-tools out there, right,
Mm-hmm.
for fishing that have, there's what do you call them, split joint or split ring pliers,
Yes.
hook retrievers. They got cutters on them, and it makes for a really good tool. They're all like most of them are aluminum. You can find them on Amazon. Um, you know, it's too easy to find a knife. Um, yeah, man, it's very important that you have the tools that you need.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would say a good set of little fingernail clippers or some kind of
Yep,
line
some sort of
cutter.
snips of
Yep.
yep.
Because if you're using braid, running braid at a higher pound, uh, you know, that stuff can get really dangerous.
Yep.
Say you've got it wrapped around your finger for some reason, you know, tip of your rod broke, you're trying to pull in your
Yep.
line, and you have a fish, or you've got a fish and then an alligator bites the fish, and then next thing you know, your hand could really actually get cut. um so
Probably more than cut
you
too,
know
man.
I I I catastrophize there, but I mean that stuff actually
It
happens.
does, man. I mean,
It
it's
really
some crazy.
does.
Anything. If you fish long enough, you're gonna see some crazy crap, man.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, but yeah, just that kind of stuff. As far as like your tackle and other things you bring, know where you're going, right? If you can pack stuff, if you can pack a ton of stuff in your truck and you know you're gonna have reach within your vehicle or car or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
Then fine, bring as much. I still bring as much, even if I'm gonna go deep into the woods and fish somewhere. I still have all that stuff in my truck, but I also have my bag, right?
So my daughter and I, 6 years old, we're in Texas. We go down to the side of Belton Lake, um, and I'm carrying 8 fishing rod and reels, and she's carrying 2 as well. And we're like deep in the brush trying to find our way to the actual bank. I mean, that's not ideal. Typically, you don't want to be carrying all of that equipment,
Mm,
but I mean, you know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, and your 6-year-old, bucks up, and she
does it,
she
dude. She
does
gets
it,
out there and does it.
and she loves fishing. So,
Hmm. But I mean, as far as like your packing and preparation goes, like it's just it comes down to what you're going to be doing. It's situational, and
yep. And what you have on hand is gonna vary based on the you know the way that the water is set
yeah.
up too. So,
I think the big thing is just safety stuff.
and
Safety.
and and prepare. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
it the worst thing that you can do is throw one rod and reel, no, no kind of tools, and no kind of, extra line, extra hooks,
Right.
um, you know, going totally unprepared.
Yep.
That would be the worst case scenario. So the best thing you can do is prepare, like you said, your
Yep.
route first, find out where you're going to fish, maybe even try and go out there prior to actually fishing
Definitely
and
scout it out.
understand,
That's a good one right there,
understand
man.
the layout.
Yep. Scout it out. Look at what you're gonna fish, man. Because I mean, you're gonna have to make multiple trips, dude. You're
Yeah,
gonna have to take multiple trips to figure out what they're gonna bite on the best, right?
especially
Because
when you're by yourself.
you're not gonna be able to carry as much stuff as you'd be able to carry on a boat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're going into like a deep fishing spot that you have to walk, a mile or two to. So you're gonna have to make multiple trips to that spot and try different things, right? So have a plan and know, okay, today I'm gonna Texas rig and I'm gonna throw a spinner bait. So
Yep.
have you a box of Texas rig stuff, spinner baits, and soft plastics. Have the rods and reels you need for those things
Yep.
ready to go. And if it doesn't work, go back to the drawing board. Reapproach it with something else. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's what it's
Packing
all about.
smart is for
Yep.
sure the way ahead, because if you go out there and you only have one color and you're out there trying to, you know, catch fish at different times
Yep.
of day, and they are hitting in the morning on green pumpkin, and then in the evening they want green pumpkin blue swirl,
Right.
maybe they don't hit, that color or that profile. So it's good to have, a little variety, and have different colors, different, styles of bait that work for the techniques that you're going to be using.
Sir, let's talk rods and reels, man. Not so much reels because I mean reels go on your rods. So I mean like, but rods is a big deal. Uh, a lot of times, me personally, if I'm fishing from the bank or fishing in a creek, I'm not gonna bring anything over 7 foot. 7 foot is my maximum, unless there's certain situations where I will go over 7 feet,
Yeah.
right? But for the most part, 7 foot is where I'm gonna be sitting.
For me, I'd have to say no more than 7'2", because I don't think I actually own a rod that's shorter than
Yeah.
7'2", maybe even 7 foot. But uh, I would have to agree on, not using a 7.5, or, you know, 7'8", or, you know, even a 8-foot rod out on
Right.
the bank, because what's on banks most of the time?
Trees,
Trees, and you're gonna
bushes.
get all
Oh
kinds
my
of jacked
God,
up
dude!
on
Like I'm
those.
telling you, man, that's the big thing, dude. Is like it is so hard to cast. Especially if you want to get out there and really get in there and catch them. We'll talk about the approaches in a little bit, but like having them shorter rods help you get in them tighter spots, and that's why I like to use this, the 7 foot. So I really don't go under 7 foot, and I don't really go over. Like I said, certain situations I do, like if I'm drop shotting a deep ledge from a bank or something like that, I will. But for the most part, it's all going to be 7 feet. As far as power and action go, um, medium to medium heavy,
Yep.
and I'm always using fast. Yeah,
I,
fast.
I
It's
like
always fast.
fast. I like fast, and then depending on what the structure is like on the bottom of the lake. If it's a soft bottom lake, I may even go extra fast, because I
Yeah.
want that real sensitive
Yep.
tip, to be able to feel
Right.
anything and everything. I mean, that would be my piece of it.
Yeah. I personally wouldn't go anything under fast though.
Yeah.
I mean, extra fast is great too. But it, like, your moderate fast or your moderates or your slow act. Me personally, I don't mess with that kind of stuff when I'm bait fishing because the applications I use those kind of rods for, I don't like fishing them from a bank. Your crankbait deals and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and I just don't like crankbait from the
Yeah,
bank. It's
I feel like that's a very, I mean, I'm sure that there's some listeners who would, go against what we're
oh
saying,
yeah,
but
I'm sure there's someone out there who perfected it. You know what
I,
I mean? But I
I
just,
personally am in the same boat as you,
yep,
man. I cannot think of a, successful crank fishing or crankbait fishing experience I've had from the bank.
no,
And I tried it when I was first kind of getting into crankbait fishing. And man, I was more than anything, I was just tearing up the lure. I wasn't catching anything. And if I was, it was sticks.
if you can find a rock that juts out and gets you in a good direction with the bank,
Yeah,
then maybe crankbait,
a good point.
yeah, a good point or something where you can
Yeah,
throw along and you're not going to be dragging it upwards. Then I could say, or like a dock that goes out pretty far, then you might have better luck with it, right?
yeah. I mean,
But
but
just,
but for a crankbait, typically,
yeah,
I mean, even medium to the
square
deep,
bill or something, yeah,
they're gonna hit the bottom all day, and that's what they're really meant for, is to
right.
get down on the bottom, make some noise, skip over
But
those
man,
rocks.
you're gonna lose them.
Yeah,
You will lose some.
and it's for me, I don't like crankbait fishing from the bank even more because you don't have the ability to go out right over top of the spot where it's stuck and fish to get it back out. You know what I mean?
Yep,
Like
yep,
poking your rod down in the water,
right,
trying to release that
right,
crankbait from whatever it is stuck on. So you gotta really be skilled and understand that technique
right.
and understand the layout uh, of the bottom.
Yep. Um, so approaches, man, and this is the rods lead us kind of right into the approaches, into why I like using the kind of rods I use.
Hmm.
When you approach the body of water, right, you got to break it down, right, and that's what the maps help you with. This is kind of all this stuff is leading into, right. You approach this body of water, and it depends on what season you're fishing, right. But let's just assume our longest seasons that we have here in the South, right, are, I guess, what are we, Southwest, I guess. I don't know what they would consider us. I mean,
Here in Oklahoma,
yeah,
this is
like
like
Southern
this is
Oklahoma.
like this is like southern Oklahoma.
Every
Yeah,
tournament I fish, they call it the South. So I mean,
yeah.
yeah. So
It's
it's
not the true
it's
South
not
though.
true.
We know
Yeah,
that.
we know that. But so like um, most of our seasons are going to be, you know, spring and harsh summers, right?
Yeah,
And when it comes to that kind of stuff, you want to find these areas on the banks that jut out, points, rocks, big logs that you might be able to take advantage of a stand on. And my best, my most successful trips have been paralleling the banks.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think a lot of,
If you can position yourself to be able to fish parallel to the bank that you're, adjacent to or even on, I mean, your
yep,
chances of getting, and you did say it is based on the time of year as well, but I would say 90% of the time, I've had more success year round going parallel to the bank.
even if I can't find a place where I can get out
Oh yeah,
off the bank, I throw at a fan. Oh, I don't know, man. What is it, like a 45-degree angle off the bank?
yeah,
Kind of. I throw like a 45-degree angle off the bank and bring it to me in an angle. I don't ever cast
straight
directly
out.
in front of me
Yeah,
unless I know there's something out there that I can hit in
yeah,
a structure.
and a good example is if you're in a pocket within a pocket. A good example is like Stillhouse,
Hmm.
where you can Stillhouse Hollow Lake in Texas, where you can actually put your boat in, and then right off to the side, you can fish from that little bank there, and there's a pocket within a pocket where the boat landing is, and that is a great area where you can fish directly out from
Yep.
the bank, and you can catch fish there. But again, that's like this, you know, 1,000,001 chance that you're gonna do that.
Right. But and then when you get to your bank fish spot, right? A lot of people don't know this, and they'll just run right up to the spot, man, make as much noise as possible, right? I don't ever get that close to my spot, right, on the bank until I cast probably about 15 feet away from it. So I'll get 15 feet before I get close to the water, about 15 feet away from the
Mm-hmm.
water,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll cast
From the edge of the
from the
bank.
edge, right? I'll
Yeah.
cast as close as I can because in the springtime you got them spawning fish,
Yeah.
right? If you walk up in there as loud as you can be and just start casting, you're gonna scare some nice fish away, right?
Yeah.
I've actually been able to. Actually, I did it this year. I figured it out, right? And it took some practice, and I was able to do it. And my wife even watched me do it, right? I figured out how to catch spawning fish from the bank, right, in this clear water.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, yeah, you might think, oh man, that ain't that hard. The fish can see you, man.
Oh yeah,
They can see
absolutely.
you on the bank. They
Absolutely.
can literally. I literally would get up on one, cast on him, standing straight up, and he wouldn't bite. As soon as I found another angle to approach him, I got on my knees. I casted on that fish. Bam! I caught him.
I think we even had an experience like that when we were fishing a tournament together on my boat,
Mm-hmm.
and I could see the fish below us,
Yep.
and my shadow was being cast directly over the fish,
Yep.
and I literally put that lure on his nose,
Yep.
and he was like,
You
"Nope,
wouldn't
don't
even
want
mess
it."
with
I
it.
got down on a knee. Do you remember the
Yep.
experience I was talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that instance, it was super cool. So 100%, you're absolutely right. You have to understand that, you know, maybe the fish aren't the smartest thing in the world, but they definitely have eyes and they can see and they can tell when your shadow is, being, you know, right over top of them, especially in those clear water
Yep.
lakes. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
plain as day. You
these
can
these are
easily see the fish and they can easily see you.
these are predatory fish with the instincts of prey, right?
Yeah.
They will attack anything that comes near them.
Mm-hmm.
But if something approaches them a way that they don't like or they can't see, their first thing they're gonna do is book it because
That was like a really smart thing you just said. I,
I
I
mean they've been doing it since they were babies. You know,
yeah,
they're small fish. Things were chasing them around. Things are attacking them.
yeah.
So
Predatory fish with the instincts of prey. I mean, that's absolutely 100% accurate. Like,
they're if they're not in a situation, man, where they can have the advantage,
yeah,
they're not gonna mess around.
yeah. And I bet every single person on the podcast listening right now can, say they understand that
Yep.
because how many times have you come up to the side of a lake and been able to see the fish that are right there
Yep.
and then they're swimming off immediately? But you put a, small piece of shrimp or something crazy small in front of a small fish,
Rips to
it's
pieces,
gonna
dude.
it's gonna attack that thing like,
Yep. Fish
it
are
is the predator.
fish are that dude that talks smack, but when it comes down to it, he can't back it up. It's basically what a bass is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But definitely take the time and don't rush the bank. You know what I mean? Get back, make a couple casts real close, and then start moving up, right? And
Yep.
then start moving in your spots. Um, take advantage of grass mats. You can flip from the bank. I've done it. I've caught fish this way, and it's crazy. You know what
And
I
the
mean?
and
Like
the
it.
cattails. I mean,
Yep.
I flipped from the bank into like the edge of some cattails, and I've caught bass there.
Yep.
I did it in a tournament with Alexis actually, and I've drop shot fished from the bank and caught fish over by vegetation as
Yep.
well. So
I mean, and then let's talk about rocks a little bit, dude. The rocks is a whole another level,
yeah,
right? Now this is where it gets tricky, right? So you're fishing rocks. A lot of the times these rocks are going down at an angle, right? Usually they're piled up on a dam or riprap or, like a jetty of some sort, right? So you got these rocks that are coming out. So when these rocks are pointing, right, they're kind of pointing outwards, and they things that you throw out there and start pulling towards the bank will get stuck underneath them, right? Especially
Yep.
when there's a current,
Yep.
right? They'll push them underneath. So based off current, based off wind, based off certain conditions, you want to make sure you adjust your weight size
Yeah.
accordingly, right? If
Yep.
you don't have any current, any wind, nothing, it's just flat glass, you want to keep a lightweight on there, right? Especially if you're fishing from the rocks, right?
Yeah.
Um, I like the Ned rig a lot from the banks, especially from rocks. It's tough. I break a lot off, but that's why you have to adjust your weight sizes,
Yeah.
because if you don't,
Ned rig hooks are like not cheap. So if you're willing to go out there and break them off, more power to you.
yeah,
I'm too tight
yep.
for all that.
But and I also drop shot. I pretty much drop shot everywhere. You know that, but
Yeah.
yeah. But hey, man, that brings us into techniques, man. My favorite techniques for bank fishing, right? Um, I'll just give you my top three, man. Ned rig, drop
Mhm.
shot, and Texas rig. You can't beat them,
Yeah.
right? You really can't beat those three things from the bank. A couple other things that I think do well on the banks are your chatter baits and spinner baits. I think those are also, if you're trying to do moving stuff and
Yeah.
really work it, those
I
are great baits for the bank because they hardly ever get snagged up.
yeah, for me, I'm gonna have to say number one being Texas rig because I just love the Texas rig. Um, Number two is gonna be spinnerbait, and then number three drop shot because again I love the drop
The
shot.
drop
But
shot is just a great way, especially for beginners. Like if you were like, hey, if you don't have any clue about bass fishing, you really want to get into it because you just kind of been introduced over the internet or whoever talked to you about it, you really want to try it. Drop shotting from the bank is a great way to get into bass fishing.
I agree with you, and I think it's worth saying if there's any listeners who are completely like lost about what a drop shot is, go on YouTube, you know, go in the search bar, type in drop shot. Guaranteed you can find about a million different ways to tie on a drop shot. But it really is, I mean, it is a no fail, technique. And if you take the time to learn how to tie it up and then learn a couple of different techniques on how to reel it in and how to, action that bait, um, the chances of you catching a fish are pretty high.
And ask me, Dean, well, what if I'm using a circle hook and I'm drop shotting in the grass? I keep getting hung up. What do I do?
If you're drop shotting with a circle hook in the grass and you keep getting hung up, what should I do?
Look, I had this issue when I started fishing again, right? Right. Drop shot has been my most successful technique. And I've had this issue using a circle hook and thick grass fishing from the banks. Use a straight shank, 1/0 thin wire worm hook, and you can skin hook that worm and it will help you. Right. I don't do it anymore.
I was just about to say shenanigans,
I
okay?
don't do it
Because
anymore because
I was nose hooking baits and I saw the way you were hooking yours, and I was like, man, maybe I need to change up the way I'm rigging my stuff because Josh seems to never miss a fish. And then, like clockwork, I change to the straight shank, and you change to the circle hook, and it was like I could not catch a single fish on a doggone drop shot for the life of me. So I call BS because I literally was running circle hooks nose hooking my baits, and I couldn't, like, I just could not believe that Josh was on the complete opposite side of the world with rigging his drop shot. And then I tried to get on the same side as him, and next thing you know, he tries to steal my thunder and steal my way of fishing. So,
So I got used to it, man. I figured it out. I progressed in my ability to use it,
you
and
grew
I grew, and I was
and
able
you
to figure
stole
out.
my
And I
my
stole
way.
Dean's way of drop shotting.
And I'm pretty sure I stole that way from, one of the YouTube
But it
greats.
is a great way to, and I'm stealing I'm actually stealing from the next episode right now, but we're going to definitely go into detail on the drop shot
Yep.
at our next episode for sure. Um, but yeah, like those techniques are the best techniques I found for bank fishing. I hardly ever get hung up. They catch fish, and it. This is going to help you not have to deal with the heartache of losing $20 every time you go to the lake.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
the beginner anglers, really the kind of the keys to success of bank fishing is, just to recap, identifying a good area that's going to be suitable for the equipment you're bringing out there, ensuring that you have the right equipment out there, ensuring that you have the right, rod length and tip sensitivity for the area that you're going to be fishing. Doing, you know, the analysis on the techniques that you want to focus on while you're out there, and ensuring that you bring the right equipment that's going to be able to allow you to make the most out of your time out there, bringing out multiple colors, sizes of hooks, um, different types of hooks, and then on top of that, ensuring that you're having fun is really
yep,
the biggest part to me.
right,
When you take that out of it, you're not even allowing yourself to enjoy it.
right.
So don't make it a job when you go out there. Make it fun for yourself. Enjoy the time that you have away from your desk, away from, you know, any kind of stressors that you've got in your
Your
life. Because,
in-laws
yeah,
and
yeah,
whatever it may be out
in-laws. I
there.
don't have any issues with my in-laws.
Neither do I, man. But there's people out there who do, and this is
So you already spoiled episode 3. We know it's on the drop shot. Um, and I think it is kind of time for us to wrap things up. I want to go ahead and give a special shout out to our 100 likes on Facebook. Thank you to each and every one of you. And then I don't understand the math behind this. I'm not a mathematician by any means, but we only have 37 views right now, or listens, if you will, on the podcast networks that we're put out on. So still, we
hey,
appreciate
yeah, hey
we
man,
appreciate all
we
the
weren't even
support.
expecting that,
I
so it's
think
pretty awesome.
I think I listened to it probably 5 times by myself, so that's good. Those numbers may or may not be accurate.
I listened to it the other 30
Wow, math is hard.
32
Math
times.
is hard.
Shut up.
All right. Well, uh, all in all, I think that it's important that everybody knows. In the description, we are going to go ahead and highlight our Facebook link, the Instagram link, and also the YouTube links. So you can go ahead and visit those platforms and reach out to us. We would love to hear
Absolutely.
back. We enjoy the feedback, and then any kind of episode topics, future episode topics that the listeners are wanting. That's what all this is about.
Absolutely. Come talk to us about fishing. Come ask any questions you have if you have any input. And just, we learn from y'all as well. So definitely give us anything you have as far as what you've learned bank fishing. Also going to post the Google Earth and Navionics web app, like I said earlier, in the on the social media links. So thank you for listening, and we'll see y'all next week.
Yep. Thank you.